Welcome back. Welcome back to the another episode of Buffalo Sports Banter. Sorry, I'm not being able to talk in the beginning here. But yeah, we're back. Another episode. Excited to get this one's going to be exciting. I mean, we're going to tell you right now. We're going to talk some Stephon Diggs to start, just because obviously it's the hot news this week. But we are going to do our history second, actually, not history last, like we always do. So we have I actually am proud of myself. I've been telling Hunter this whole time. I love the ones that I have this week. I might actually be able to have ones that are better than Hunter this week. Might be the only time ever, but we'll see. And then we'll finish it off with a Mount Rushmore of games that me and Hunter have been alive for. Obviously, it's what, like maybe a year difference at the most in our age. So
I think I got you by like a month and 10 days or something like that. So it's
actually, yeah. So it's not even, we're very close in age. So we'll have a lot of games and similar. We're going to love, this is where we really want you guys to put games down below. Obviously some of you guys might have games that we've never seen. So if you hear one that, or you think that we're missing major ones that we weren't alive for, just remember this is for when we were alive for. So you can put them down in the comments. Don't come after us though. But and if that is when we're alive for, yeah, I'm definitely gonna miss some that I slipped my mind. Hunter, same thing with you. Might slip our minds. There's a lot of games in our lifetime, and I can't imagine for some of you guys how many some of you guys have also witnessed. But excited to be back. Hunter, how you doing? Ready to do another one? Get this one rolling and have some fun.
absolutely. I'm looking forward to this one. I know we had kind of generated an idea to do a Rushmore style list, and I think that we really came up with a great idea. And yeah, it's interesting because, like you said, there's two factors here. One, maybe we missed some that we were alive for. I know, I mean, it's guaranteed that we had because we had to choose from a bigger list to narrow it down. And then two, what are our listeners and viewers? What do they have to offer from their age perspective? So
Yeah, excited to get this one going. Let's just hop right into it. Started off, it was an interesting week. I mean, it started off very, very weird, and then got confusing, and then got even more. It just kept. It was a very weird cycle of how the news came out. But Stephon Diggs, right? That was the hot topic this week. I saw a lot of things on Twitter. I know I was posting a lot about it. You can follow, obviously, our Twitters here if you'd like. But yeah, I mean, it starts off where mandatory minicamp starts, right? And there was a report then that comes out, or not even a report, it was a press conference where McDermott says Stephon Diggs was the only one not there. Obviously, there was talk this whole offseason, a little bit, not too much, of, is Diggs gonna, cause the scenes, make drama again? Is he gonna be a diva, as people called it? But yeah, then McDermott says he's not there. A reporter asks him, is he concerned? He said very concerned, which to me is very characteristic of Bean or McDermott, even just this regime. And then comes out later that his agent says he was there and will be there the whole entire time. And then everybody started getting confused. Everybody started screaming, yelling, going after each other. And then he comes out that he was there for the morning and then left right before practice. Josh comes to the podium, says he's not really concerned, says that, he's behind his teammate, he loves Steph, and that he's his guy still. I mean, we obviously all know about their little bromance that they've had going. A lot of people thought they were breaking up. I know that. I saw that everywhere. Is Josh and Steph breaking up? I'm gonna cry. And it would be sad if they did, but they are not. Then Von Miller comes up, says it's not a big deal, but he does say he's on Steph's side. Then that causes more controversy. People are saying, sides? What are we talking about sides? It went crazy. I think you saw it too. And then all of a sudden, Diggs is there on Tuesday, which is great. He's seen with Josh, slapping Josh up, everything like that. McDermott comes again, says they're moving past it. And actually, now that I think about it, was it Tuesday, Wednesday? No. Was it Tuesday, Wednesday? Instead of
I think Tuesday was the day the drama unfolded and reconciled.
Sorry. Mid conversation, I realized that was saying Monday, Tuesday. Monday, actually, he was there for the physicals and the medical stuff just to get cleared. So very weird timeline. I know I didn't exactly describe that the best. There was a lot going on. A lot of people thought different things. What were your just initial thoughts on everything, and what do you think about the situation now?
Yeah, a lot to digest and take a look at. I know when I saw the buzz come across on Tuesday, I was like the comment said, that would kind of make me a little concerned. I mean, my immediate thought was, okay, death in the family, family emergency, personal emergency. Um, but then when it really twisted for me is when I saw that he'd actually been in the facility uh, hours earlier. Like I thought that and I maybe hadn't looked hard enough to find out that this wouldn't have been the case, but I thought, oh, maybe he's in his hometown of Gaithersburg, Maryland for something. Maybe he's not even in the area. But when I saw out that it was hours earlier that he was there, that was like real twist in the plot. So, with that being said, I mean, the possible emergency that would have had to take place within a what 2 hour window. Just
Yeah.
because if you're there in the morning and you afternoon start or late morning start for the mandatory minicamp, so that was really interesting. I then it kind of you definitely saw a lot of the immediate uh, what he like diva comments, and I definitely maybe was jumped to conclusions a little bit too fast. I would say not as much as others, which you don't like to see the fan base kind of automatically thinking the worst, not in a safety situation, but the worst of someone's personality, which isn't warranted all the time. And so, yeah, very interesting. Cleared up yesterday. And then then you kind of look back on McDermott's comments of very concerning. And then, so what I'm trying to kind of digest here is he would have known that he was there earlier. So you do wonder how small or how short of a window did this take place where he wasn't there. But me, at least, I'm not going to worry about it. I know I saw a poll. I don't know who put it out, but it's like, are you going to speculate on this or are you going to move on? I right away hit the move on. A local Buffalo media, sports media personality had put that out. So that's kind of where I stand on it. Interesting, but I'm kind of throwing it in the past and let's play on here.
Yeah, I mean, my first initial thought was, "Oh, here we." I think I actually tweeted it. I think I tweeted like, "Oh no, here we go!" Like, as soon as it was reported he wasn't there, because you knew as soon as that report came out, and as soon as you heard that McDermott quote, you knew everything was hitting the fan. You knew that the whole entire community, the whole entire Bills Mafia was going to go crazy. I mean, I get it. It's your captain, it's your star player, it's the guy that just got paid earlier this year, right? Got paid last year to last season too. He got that extension, so it definitely was something that I was confused about. That was my main thing. I think for me, most of the things that I was even putting out there were, oh, this the reason? Is this the reason? I tweeted out a link to an article saying how his brother 2 weeks ago, not Trayvon, his other brother, I'm blanking on the name, but ended up getting into he ended up getting robbed in an elevator. So that report came out. So I thought, oh, is that it? But that happened 2 weeks ago, and is that still affecting him? I mean, if he was here, wouldn't he be there if there was still like a problem or an issue or something? So that was one thought. The other thought I had was Chad Hall leaving. I mean, I know that a lot of the wide receivers loved him as the wide receiver coach. Dorsey came up to in my mind too. Is it Dorsey or whatever? It seems to me that it's between McDermott and Diggs, maybe just a little feud, a little disagreement. I honestly think it has to do with Diggs not being heard. Obviously, we don't know the whole story, but I feel like that's why. I don't know why he would make a big deal out of it if it wasn't something like that. I mean, it was evident last year that they were going to listen to Josh about anything. I mean, they hired Ken Dorsey pretty much because he said he wanted Ken Dorsey as the offense coordinator, right? So I think Diggs might not have felt a little bit, might not have felt heard enough or something like that. But again, I don't think it's anything big. I think it's something that the team's going to move past. My only worry is, and I even tweeted this out, my biggest concern. This is the second time something weird has happened in about one Bills drive in the past 4 months, 5 months. The first one that comes to mind is the Leslie Frazier whole Leslie Frazier thing. I mean, your coach weirdly, it was weird. That was another weird situation, right? Like all of a sudden, Frazier is just gonna take a year off. I mean, it's not a firing. They made that clear. I remember. I think we actually might have talked about that. It's not a firing. That was what was it wasn't a firing at all. And then now there's reports saying that he's at Packers practices or at another team's practices that I'm blanking on. There was another team I think too. So that's confusing to me. Isn't he still under contract with the Bills? Is he not? Was it a firing? What's going on here? Like, so that for me was the confusing part. And then now you have this come up. That's the only concern, in my opinion, is what is going on where you have, obviously, it was a long season last year, right? Then you have the colossal collapse against the Bengals in the playoff game. That was a putrid game. You have Matt Milano after the game saying the effort just wasn't there. The energy wasn't there. Then you have obviously a long off season, not too long, but pretty long off season of just thinking about that game. What went wrong? What's wrong with this team? You have a good off season. I think you had a good draft. I think you had get good pickups in free agency, and you have a lot of picks next year too. And then all of a sudden this happens. So it's that's my concern is is there anything that's going on in there? I don't think McDermott's losing the locker room. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that. It's just weird. That's the thing. It's not even like, oh, somebody's doing something wrong every time. It's just, why does this stuff? It's so vague on what's happening, and it's confusing. I think a lot of fans are still confused about this. I mean, we saw people saying, "Why isn't Diggs talking about it? Why isn't Diggs talking about it?" Well, first of all, Diggs doesn't know anybody an explanation. I think we both would agree on that one. I mean, would we like one? Oh yeah, I'd love one. I'd love for him to go up there, and he probably will go up there at some point and get asked about it. I mean, it's what, Thursday? It happened on Tuesday. It's been 2 days. But yeah, it was just it's something that I don't know if we'll ever get the full answer to. And we still haven't really had a full answer of why Leslie Frazier stepped away or anything like that. So those are my major concerns. Is there something going on there that the Bills are struggling with internally? And that was my takeaway. I don't know if you had the same takeaway from the press conferences. Is there was a lot of talk about communication. There was a lot of talk about just being on the same page, and a lot of talk about emotion. And that's something that's not, it's a little concerning. Not, I wouldn't say it's like, oh, I'm going to freak out over it, but it's definitely a little concerning because this team's been together for a while. Like, a lot of these guys have been together for a while, right? Poyer's been here for a while. Hyde's been here for a while. Diggs, Allen, even Mitch Morse, like Deion Dock. You go down the line, they've been here since for 5-6 years, some even longer. Actually, I don't even know if there's any longer, maybe 1 or 2 longer.
Milano's up there for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Milan, like, there's so many guys that have been here. This coaching staff is mostly the same, right? So that's my main point, is just I'm very confused on the whole situation of what's going on inside One Bills Drive. I don't think it's something to be super concerned about, but if another thing comes up, especially if it's before camp or during camp, I'll be a little more concerned, and I'll say, okay, what's going on in One Bill? What's going on in this organization right now? Because they've seemed like the greatest organization for what, 5 years, 6 years, and I think you can tell me if I'm wrong here, but it seems to me that McDermott and Bean, their whole thing, their whole regime has been about keeping info inside the building, not causing drama, and being a tight knit unit. And again, this is the second time there's been a little drama in 4 months. So I'm more, and I don't want to sound like, oh, it's Diggs is 100% right. I don't know if Diggs is 100% right. But from what I'm seeing, it seems more like it's McDermott or the coaching or what, there's just the staff, not the players. And I'm going to give Stephon Diggs the benefit of the doubt. The man's put up almost 4,000 yards and 300 catches for the Bills in 3 years, in the past 3 years almost. He's been unbelievable. He's a captain for a reason. The players respect him. We've seen a couple times with McDermott, maybe he's questioned a little bit. And this was the first time I think he was maybe a little flustered in that press conference. So we'll see how it goes. I think they will move past it, and I think everything will be fine. But again, if another thing happens, I'm going to ask the same question I'm asking right now. Is something going on inside that building that we don't know about? But for right now, I'm going to move past it. I think you are too. Any last thoughts on the situation? Anything that, while I was talking, brought up came to your mind before we move on. We'll definitely talk about this probably next week at least a little, because I guarantee maybe not next week, but whenever Diggs talks again, that's really it. Whenever Diggs says something about the situation, or anytime somebody else says something about the situation, we'll definitely talk about it. But any last thoughts on the Stephon Diggs McDermott Bills drama?
Yeah, you wonder why if it wasn't a personal matter to attend to. I know the topic of the targets, um, the failure of amount of to increase targets maybe in the playoff games is a factor. I know he was pretty upset after the Bengals game about not getting the ball thrown his way a lot. You would figure you go back, that's 5 months ago. I mean, I don't know. Of course, I'm not a player, but I feel like I would be willing and ready to move on from that. It's a new season. I wouldn't really want to hold a grudge there. I would hope that's not the reason why. Um, I know the comments from Josh, of course, where we have something to the nature of to the tune of we have some things kind of in house or whatever that we'd like to kind of improve on or whatever. But that's my guy. So yeah, just speculating on the reasons why. But I hope that doesn't really overshadow what the possibilities are with this really great roster on paper are and coming into training camp and beyond. So that'll wrap that up for me.
Yeah, I mean it is I think it's the best team of the past 6 years, right? Since Bean's taken over, in my opinion. And we thought that last year, and I think this roster is better, and hopefully it doesn't ruin anything. I don't think it will. I think you're on the same boat with me that you don't think it'll be anything unless something else comes up. I mean, if one other thing comes up, then yeah, I'm going to be asking a lot of questions. But that's enough Stephon Diggs talk for right now. We talked plenty on Twitter the past 2 days about it. I mean, we've seen plenty of things about it. I think everybody's just a little tired at this point, and if I think a lot of people had a beer that night just to take the edge off and say, all right, it's been a long day. But yeah, let's move on to our history facts. Doing them early today. We're gonna run through them quick. Actually, I think I'm gonna have you go first this time, and I think I'll go second because I'm excited for mine. Um, so yeah, you can go ahead, and HLC's a day in history.
Alrighty. Well, speaking, I know we were talking previously about some possible sponsorships. I gotta say, I would have to argue that this date in Buffalo sports history from Twitter would be a great candidate for that because I'm gonna reference and source them once again for mine. Some more vintage baseballs. Baseball, of course, being probably the main sport on the spotlight now that we've finished up the NBA and NHL in the States here. So we'll get right to it. But so on this day in 1921, so that takes us back 102 years. After losing the first of a doubleheader, a twin bill to here's a name, a pretty notable name, and you maybe have to be a little bit of a baseball historian to know, but I think many will. A young Lefty Grove, old time pitcher, the International League minor league Buffalo Bisons ended up snapping um, Lefty Grove. Lefty Grove's the Baltimore Orioles record-setting 27-game win streak with a 19-8 win in the second game. So that is pretty impressive to be the team to finally knock down such a stalwart record. I know that rings a bell to some of those I believe the Jordan era and maybe I know the LeBron Heat era had a pretty long win streak too that the Bulls actually took out. So it reminds me of that. So definitely interesting. I would say it doesn't compete with some of the past ones that we've had and possibly what's to come in a couple of seconds here. But to me, at least, I really puts a smile on my face to see historical Hall of Fame MLB names associated with Buffalo as we don't have our own team. So that's always pretty neat to me to see.
Yeah, it's shocking to me since it's been this is the sixth episode for us. It's shocking to me how many baseball things we've had, and I actually have another one today that involves Buffalo and baseball. But I'm not going to start with that one. I'm just going to do I have three of them, three small ones. So I was kind of looking around and just at what happened on today first, not just for Buffalo. This is a non-Buffalo one that I just want to bring in. We don't need to talk about it or anything, but on this day in 2019, blockbuster NBA trade. I don't know if you can guess it.
Oh no, a little early for that, but
I'll give you a quick second.
2019. Well, that immediately brought to mind Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul. I know that was July, so this one had to have been not Kawhi and DeRozan either. Trying to think here. Um,
Blockbuster. Just it's involved in one of the biggest teams in the NBA, if not the biggest team in the NBA.
Probably includes the Lakers on that list. So in 2019, that would have had to have been. Uh, well, it's not. LeBron wasn't a sign and trade, was he? From the Cavs,
No.
he signed himself. Oh, of course. I was actually in Poughkeepsie, New York for this. My buddies were out getting pizza for a Special Olympics tournament, and I was happy I stayed to focus on the news of Anthony Davis going to
Yep.
the Lakers for a package from the Pelicans.
Yeah, and it was a massive one. Brandon Ingram, Lonzo Ball, who I hope he can play again, but that's something we'll probably talk about next week. Josh Hart, 3 first-round picks, including the 4th overall pick in 2019. Massive package. I mean, it worked out. They got a title, right? It worked out. Not didn't work out too well for the Pelicans, actually. That's the one thing it hasn't turned into too much. I mean, they don't even have Lonzo or Josh Hart anymore. And who did they pick with that 4th overall pick? I don't even remember. Or did they trade up for Zion? I don't know. I can't remember. But yeah, either way, it hasn't turned out too well for the Pelicans. And I remember 2 years ago, you could have said that, or no, 3 years ago, you probably could have said that it was a lopsided trade in favor of the Pelicans. But now I'd say the Lakers won. That's just a small one I wanted to do. Blockbuster. The other ones, 2 baseball ones. First, 1928, on this day, the Philadelphia Athletics, Ty Cobb steals home for the 54th time, which is an MLB record. I believe it's still a record to this day. So that's just another small one. Ty Cobb stealing home. Now this one I'm actually I happen to be looking, and I was just looking at what's going on and stuff in history. 51-3. Right? That was a score of a game. I saw that somewhere, and I was like, 51-3. Ended up being the Corsicana Indians beat in the Texas leagues. They scored 50 runs in a 48-win victory against the Texarkana Casket Makers. Jay Clark went 8 for 8 with 8 home runs, which is still a single game record. And apparently, it just went crazy. But then that led me to even crazier fact. 1869. We're going all the way back to 1869. This one is wild. On June 8th, so a week ago in 1869, in Buffalo, New York, Niagara beats Columbia 209-10. Every player scored at least 20 runs, but here's the other crazy part. They didn't score in the 4th inning. So there was actually an inning they didn't even score. It's never happened to this day. They played all 9 innings. This is how the 9 innings went for Niagara scoring all these runs. 40 in the first, 20 in the second, 9 in the third, none in the fourth, 18, 19, 26, 58, and 19. I said at this point, if they might cancel that game today in the first inning, if it was 40, it was 40-2 at the end of the first. That game might be ended right there, let alone at 60-5 at the end of the second. I saw this and I didn't think it was true. I had to look it up, but it was true. Let's see. So it says some poor sap named Mac. It doesn't have the last name. Threw approximately 950 pitches, but he had to start delivering the ball underhand because his arm got tired. This might not even be true, but I've seen this is like I had to look it up, and there was like 6 or 7 things about it. It happened in Buffalo, New York. I thought this was wild. Apparently, the batters traveled more than 14 miles. It's unbelievable. I saw this. I was like, "There's no way that this is true." It was 69-6 at the end of the third. Like, if you're in that situation, what do you do? Like, I would quit. I would quit after the first. I'd say,
I have to agree. My question is time of game.
I don't know. Let's see. I'll see if it says anything. There's this huge article about it. There was a couple huge articles about it.
In my mind, that's like, especially if that started maybe in the afternoon. Yeah, in the afternoon. I'm thinking that was that like postponed and restarted because of the darkness. I mean, that would have had to have been a game beginning at the crack of dawn, in my opinion. Unless they're
Yeah.
playing by arcade rules, in which uh, runs counted for more than what they actually do. One, like you can only score by one, or at least a 2-run, 3-runner home of Grand Slam.
And I do want to point out it's not Niagara University or Columbia University. So there's some comments here, and somebody said, "Great story, but there's an inaccuracy. He implies that it's Niagara University versus Columbia University, but it's actually between the Niagaras and the Columbias. No affiliation with any colleges. The Niagaras were founded in 1857, were Buffalo's first uniformed baseball club, and then the Columbias were another amateur. So sounds like it was amateur baseball, but I don't care what league it is. 209 to 10. You lost by 199. Sorry if I cut you off there, but I'm just reading through some of these comments, and that's ridiculous. So you got anything else on this one? I don't know. Does this top any of yours? I don't know. I still think your first one was better about uh who was the player? Oh my
It's
gosh.
Nick Aaron, definitely. I think it's close. I don't know if that might be a draw down the middle, just because uh, that's unbelievable. That's unfathomable. I'm just still curious about the time of game. I think that has to maybe
We'll have
exceed
to look that up at
half
the
of the day,
end.
8 hours, five
Oh, it
hours.
had to have been. It had to have been. I don't even know if it's. I don't think it says at all who. Yeah, it doesn't say at all. There's like box scores from the newspaper that they have here. This is like uh, Jay Warren was the ump. I wish some of these guys were still alive so we could ask him about this.
Somebody's
Um,
great great grandchild gonna have to
that's
give
true.
us some
We'll have to
info.
hunt him down and get
Yeah,
him on
right.
here. But yeah, that's my fact. I had to bring it up because I saw it and I was like, that is might quite possibly the most absurd thing I've ever seen in my life. So yeah, there's my history. Three history things for me, kind of four-ish. But yeah, that one that because it said minor league's most lopsided baseball game was the 51-3 game, and then I saw that and I was like, was this a minor league game? I don't even know, but craziness, crazy. I feel like a lot of our facts are baseball ones, our history ones, which was kind of interesting because Buffalo doesn't have a major league baseball team, and a lot of things happen in Buffalo, New York, with baseball. But yeah, let's move on then to, unless you got anything else.
Nah, I think it's time for the main event.
Now it's time for the main event. I'm going to pull it up here. We will, you're going to start it, and then we'll go, it's going to be four, and then we'll talk about some few after that. Probably like what, minute of us talking about each game, whatever, because we were kind of also running a little bit on time. I know that we're doing a lot more than taking a little bit longer than we thought, but here we go. I'm just gonna type them in. Sorry, guys, that this isn't like the greatest thing ever. This is how we're doing it. But yeah, Hunter, you're gonna go first. This is again games we have seen or have been alive for, but most likely we've seen these games. So what is your first pick? That is might not be your top game, but it's the one that maybe stands out to you the most.
So yeah, a quick preface. This is not going to be in rank order. It's just my four Mount Rushmore. Then we have it may apply to both of us, a separate choice of that we were actually attending, and then a separate choice of an honorable mention. And so I will, for me at least, I'll try to go in chronological order as well. So my first choice for my Mount Rushmore of Bills games I've been alive for. I watched this one. This was really in the middle of the era in which there was not a lot to be proud of. However, 2 weeks in a row, not to get too off track, but the week before this game was also a candidate, if you remember. I'll try to bring that up later, but I had to go with this one. 2011, a guy by the name of Ryan Fitzpatrick or Ryan Fitzmagic leads the charge a week 3 home game against the hated rival New England Patriots. I believe it was a 21-0 comeback to defeat New England 34-31. I remember this like it was yesterday. Ryan Lindell game-winning field goal to keep the season it's a great start. It actually brought the Bills to 3-0, if I'm not mistaken, or 4-0 actually, if I believe 3-0 or 4-0, one of the two. That game included a Drayton Florence pick six. I believe it included Scott Chandler may have scored. I think, yeah,
I think
a lot of fun games.
Freddie J had like a
Yep.
long, I think it
Yep.
was a screen pass.
I believe you're exactly right. And I specifically also remember now a coach, Gerard Mayo, jumped or had a false starter, jumped off sides to keep one of the Bills' drives alive, which was key. I know Gronkowski scored, and probably that may have been one of his first games in Buffalo, if I'm not
Was that
mistaken.
was that the game where it was like the most interceptions Brady has ever thrown in a game or
There
something
were
like
a
that?
lot. I believe Drayton Florence had one. Here's a real throwback. I think Reggie Torbor may have had one.
Oh, I got it right here. I got the box score.
Okay.
Let's see. So yeah, it was 34-31. Brady had 4 interceptions but 4 touchdowns. Stephen Ridley was the starting running back with Danny Woodhead, Ben Jarvis, Green Ellis. That's a throwback name right there. Wes Welker had 217 yards and 2 touchdowns in that game. Julian Edelman only had 1 catch for 5 yards. But for the Bills, yeah, Fitz threw for 370 yards. Donald Jones led the way with 101 receiving yards. Stevie J had a touchdown catch. Scott Chandler had a touchdown catch. David Nelson, I always thought he would be better than he ended up having a career. But Brad Smith, good old Brad Smith. These are some throwback names that honestly I forgot Brad Smith was even a Bill. But yeah, those are the stats there defensively. Interceptions. Let's see. Oh, it's not pulling it up. Oh, interception. Drayton Florence, Otis McKelvin, George Wilson, and Brian Scott.
It was Brian Scott said it Torbor. That's right.
Hmm.
I know one of those was definitely a tip. I remember tipped ball caught by one of those defensive backs. But yeah, that's got to be my first choice. Really fond memories. I know. Here's what I was talking about earlier. The previous week, the Bills had actually, I think, either gone neck and neck with, and then they were down late, or came back against the Raiders, led by a really throwback named Jason Campbell. I know that. And wide receiver, if you follow me, if you can, I want to say his name was Johnny Lee Higgins. Was playing. We have a great game for the Raiders. However, that was 38-35. I know that for a fact, in which the Bills won. But yeah, what a 2-week span there. Would have loved to have been in either games. I would have been 10 at the time, so didn't go as frequently. But great memories watching on television, and yeah. So again, thank you, Fitz, and that's where I'll leave it for choice.
If I'm not mistaken, that was also we started off like 4 or 5-0. Maybe it might have been only 3-0, and then they gave Fitz a massive contract, and it didn't really turn out too well. From then on, I think it was like a 6-year deal they gave him. I remember thinking he was the answer, but yeah, I believe it was that game. I don't know. Do you remember it all?
Those performances definitely would have triggered such a deal to be made. I think it was not too long after that game. That's for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, my first one is against the same team. It's against the New England Patriots. And I don't want any Patriots fans coming in here saying, oh, we live rent free. It's just we happen to have the greatest games, including this one, which was actually a perfect game. The playoff game. I happened to be at that one. 47-17. I'm going to put it here. Bill, or 47-17. Perfect.
You could leave it at that, and I think we would all know what it means after 47-17, but it's nice to put a description as well.
Yeah. So it's perfect game. Absolutely perfect. I mean, that game, I don't know if I'll ever go to a game that is more exciting than that one. I mean, because it was the best part was that it was a playoff game. It wasn't just a regular season game. It was just an absolute domination. It went 7-0, 14-0, 20-0, but a blocked extra point. Then Singletary went up 27-0, 27-3 at halftime, 33-3, 33-10, and it just went on and on and on. Tommy Doyle had a touchdown in that game. I don't think that's probably his only one, right? I don't think I ever remember another game of his.
Mm-hmm.
I can't pull the box score up for some reason. There we go. I think that was the only game. But Mac Jones only 200 yards, 2 picks. Damian Harris was on that Pats team, didn't do anything. Kendrick Bourne has the only one that had a good game, and he had 77 yards and 2 touchdowns. But Allen, 21 for 25, 308 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. a 157.6 pass rating. Singletary had 81 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Josh also, by the way, had 66 rushing yards in that game. So he accounted for almost 200, 380 yards and 5 touchdowns with not a single turnover. I mean, it was absolutely unbelievable. I mean, the interceptions, Micah Hyde and Levi Wallace had an interception. It's just a great game. I mean, Tyler Bass ended up actually missing 2 extra points. One was blocked, the other one I think was missed. So that was literally the only part of the game that was bad. Not a single punt. It was amazing. I think we can all agree on that one that was just an amazing game. So that's going to be my number one, the perfect game.
And so I can confirm for mine that actually was week 3. So they went to 3-0 after that win. And for your game, I'll never forget, freezing cold. I was actually sitting in front of a handful of Providence College women's soccer players who had made the road trip from Rhode Island. And I'm sure that that was not a fun ride back. Let's
Yeah,
just
well,
say that. So
actually, now that I remember, real quick, I was sitting next to, I had brought my Patriots fan roommate from college. He was my roommate for 3 years. So that's already, it was like a funny dynamic, but I brought him to that game. I think he was at that game, and it was just fun. It was fun to watch, man. But yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's 2 great ways to start it off against what I would have to say currently the biggest rival. Maybe that changes. Maybe, in the past you would say Miami, but where it stands now. You know what I mean? But for choice number 2, here's a game versus a team that I'll say this will make another appearance, and it's one that you might never think if you don't think about the detailed games. NFC team, and I'll say this also, it's not what you're going to think it is. The Minnesota Vikings. Not this past season, though. Let's go all the way back to 2014, led by Uncle Rico himself, Kyle Orton. 17-16, last-minute touchdown strike goes to Sammy Watkins right after a fourth down conversion, I believe. The fourth down conversion, if you remember, this is really niche. It was the Scott Chandler. It was a 4th and 18. The hopes were looking really dire. But Scotty C comes up in the clutch, reels in a pass from Kyle Orton to keep the drive alive. I know then Chris Hogan made a really nice catch on the sidelines to get the Bills to, I believe, the 1 or 2 yard line. And then with, I think 2 seconds left, Watkins hauls it in, ties it up. So we still need, I believe at the time, is that possibly Dan Carpenter in 2014?
I believe it was.
We need his extra point to go through. It does. We then kick the ball off and all as well. 2014. So that's got to be, just for me personally, and I know it means a lot. I was watching that at a buddy's house, and what we actually did was afterwards we would run outside because he lives right by the stadium, not right by the stadium, sorry, right on 20A actually. And so we went, made signs, beat for the Bills, just a raucous attitude. A couple of Vikings fans gave us one of these. But just a great time there. And so that holds a lot of memories for me. The one season we had Kyle Orton for. So just a buzzer beater play there. And that's got to be, for me, at least, choice number 2.
Solid. I do remember that game, and Uncle Rico was a fun guy to watch. I mean, I'm not going to admit it. I liked him on the team. Obviously, he was old. I didn't think he was a franchise guy. But yeah, he was a fun guy to watch. For my second one, I'm going to go back to January 3rd, 2021. I believe it was week 17. It was the Bills versus Dolphins. Yeah, and it was actually Dolphins. If the Dolphins won this game, it was to make the playoffs. And it was a blowout. 56-26. Funny part is the Bills were down 3-0 at the end of the first quarter. Then, within 10 minutes, 7-yard pass to Isaiah McKenzie for a touchdown. 14-yard pass to Isaiah McKenzie for a touchdown. 84-yard punt return by Isaiah McKenzie for a touchdown. And then it just turned into a bloodbath from there. John Brown had a touchdown. Josh Norman had an interception return for a touchdown. Antonio Williams then had 2 more rushing touchdowns. And Gabe Davis from, can you guess the quarterback, still on the team.
Matty B.
Yep, Matty B. Matt Barkley to make it 56-19. And then they ended up getting just a garbage time touchdown to make Tua's stats look better. His only touchdown pass of the whole entire game. 3 interceptions there for Tua. Unbelievable game. Josh did have two interceptions as well. Or no, Barkley had one. Sorry. Barkley had one. Josh had one. Josh went for 224, three touchdowns, one pick. Antonio Williams, like I said, two touchdowns there, but just an unbelievable game. Gabe Davis had two receptions for 107 yards and a touchdown. Weird stat line there. And then the interceptions, Dean Marlowe and Josh Norman, but absolute blowout. So I do have Dolphins 56-26. Well, that's way too small of font. 56-26. And the Bills were going to the playoffs. Dolphins were not. So that's going to be my second one.
Yes, I remember watching that too. You couldn't be there as that was the COVID season, but some really fond memories of that one too, a 30-point blowout. I would have to also argue probably the Bills' highest scoring game, and I don't remember a time they've surpassed that.
Yeah, it's got to be. I don't think they've ever passed that. At least in the Josh Allen era, I don't think they've passed that.
Right on. And so for my third choice, let's go back to literally, if I'm not mistaken myself, a week later, 2020 season in 2021, the year, Bills Colts wild card game, first playoff game in Buffalo. You have to go back to probably the 90s. I'm gonna have to say because I know that the Titans Music City Miracle. We want to forget it. That's in Nashville. That was 2000, I believe. So you got to go back to the past century to find a home Bills playoff game. Really unfortunate that not everyone could be there. I know that was when they kind of moved to the stage of like season ticket holders could go like in a raffle. I tried all my hardest to try to find some type of way, but it was tough. I couldn't be there, but I was really hyped to be there for Colts Bills. I'm sorry, not be there, but to watch Colts Bills.
Colts Bills. Sorry, I don't know why I'm right
yes,
Ravens.
The wild card game. It was a 27-24 victory, a really tight-knit game. I know Jack Doyle had some scores or a score for Indianapolis, but the Bills held tough. They actually had to defend in would have been a Phillip Rivers Hail Mary at the end of the game, and they batted it down, and the Bills go on to advance to play who you would put the Ravens. We know what happens in that game. But first Bills playoff win that I was able to witness for my lifetime. So that was really, really special. I actually do remember a couple of tears streaming down because that was kind of a sign of the times. No more wild card heartbreak. We were in there. We're a contender. Those are a contender. And yes, we move on to play of course, you have the Baltimore Colts connection. So Baltimore Ravens was that next game. But yeah, super special to me. I remember the last thing I'll say is I remember a picture of Finn was actually crying himself as I think the caption that came out later was that he went to visit his grandpa's grave, and it was like big grandpa was a big fan, and like the grandson finally gets to see his team in the playoffs. So I'll never forget that. But yes, 2020 season, early 2021, a week after the Dolphins blowout, Bills Colts, Bills by 3.
Yeah, I mean, the playoff wins are just amazing no matter how they come. I don't care what anybody says. Like, if you win a playoff game, they're a fun game. And the close games are honestly I get we had the perfect playoff game here. You mentioned the Ravens one, which might be on this list soon. Like that wasn't really a high scoring one, but like they 17-13 game, like it's still a good game, right? Like no matter what, if it's the perfect game or that Colts game or whatever victory it was in the playoffs games are just amazing. So yeah, great pick. Again, I'm going to stay with the team that you had there, the Indianapolis Colts. And I think you probably know where I'm going with this one. It's the Colts snow game. And I was at that one. I'll tell a good story here, actually. I happened to be working that game. I happened to be the Boulevard. I'm not even sure if they still have it actually. The Boulevard where they have like a bunch of games. That sometimes they hand out food. I happened to be working there the first year I think it was the first year they put it in, and I was out by the giant beer pong, whatever game, and I remember we had to wear. Well, I think that they wanted us to wear like black pants, just black like dress pants. They gave us these jackets which were again. I'm gonna say this again. This was this long ago. I don't know. They probably got new jackets now, but they were not the best jackets. We didn't wear ours. We wore theirs, and lucky for me and the two other people that were with me, They happen to be we happen to be right next to the Bills car. And if you don't know, there's somebody that sits in that all game, sits in that car. And there was this nice little old man, I'm forgetting his name, but he was sitting in the car with the car on, car running, and we were freezing. Like we had gloves and hats and stuff, but we were freezing. It was, I mean, it just started. I remember it wasn't bad in the morning. I remember in the morning, it didn't snow at all. There was really no snow on the ground. And then around 10:30, I think it started, it just started coming down and it did not stop. We ended up taking turns going into that car, and it got to a point where we all just sat in the car until we saw somebody even try to come over to play the game because nobody wanted to play the game. And then I ended up going into the game. I didn't work the game. I worked before the game, and I ended up getting into the game. And I had my mom bring in different snow pants, jacket, everything. So I had to go change into the bathroom, not fun changing into the Bills men's bathrooms. Any women watching this, you're lucky you'll never have to see those bathrooms. I hope that the women's are better. But yeah, had to go change there. But I remember I couldn't see I have 300 first level tickets. Couldn't see the game. I ended up going down to the 100s by all my buddies, watched the game from there, still could barely see it. And then Shady ended the game in overtime. Joe Webb, I believe, was the
Mm-hmm.
reason we sent it to overtime. But unbelievable game. That's one of those games where it wasn't the most fun, but it's one of those games where forever and ever I will never forget that game. I think anybody at that game will maybe say the same thing. You'll never forget that game. Just it was unbelievable. Jacoby Brissett went 11 for 22 for 69 yards. Nate Peterman had a touchdown there. Joe Webb actually didn't have a touchdown. He actually had an interception, but then he had that long completion. I don't remember who it was to, but Shady McCoy had
Deontay
160.
Thompson.
Deontay Thompson, yeah, he had one reception for 34 yards. Calvin Benjamin had a touchdown in that game. Nick O'Leary, no gloves Nick, was on that team. It was just a fun game. I mean, McCoy had 156 yards. It was crazy. I remember guys falling in the snow and their whole entire face mask covered in snow. But yeah, I don't know if we'll ever see a game played in that weather again. Because nowadays, I feel like that game, if it had happened before, they would have just canceled it. Maybe not the day of, but either way, one of my favorite games. That was 2017 that
Mm-hmm.
that game happened. So Colt Snow game I'm going with.
Yes, I was also at that game. My dad and I bought tickets the morning of for like $9 because of the possible forecast. Um, and we made hot chocolate ices essentially with all the snow. It was a chocolate slushy there, and that was an important win. Don't forget, as I'm sure you didn't, to break the drought. We needed it. It's coming in 6-6, and in the color rushes, the Bills get the win. Yes, what a time there. So to round it out for my list, at least on the Rushmore side of things, we'll have two more after that for me at least. This one will be a loss. It is a loss, and I'm pretty sure most everyone can pin this down. I wonder if you might be following with a very similar, perhaps at the same game. But let's go to the game that comes after the perfect playoff game, I believe. And we will go down to Kansas City, Missouri, AFC Divisional.
Already typing it.
And that is what this game has been come to known as 13 seconds. It still is probably the best game of football I've ever witnessed on television. Uh, I still can't still sometimes have a hard time processing what went on there, what happened. Like, there's just so much to talk about. Gabe Davis, an NFL record that doesn't come in a winning effort. That's insane. You have so I think the third Davis touchdown from that point on, that's just bedlam. You have Hill's insane run to score. You have Davis's fourth touchdown. I was at Striker's bowling alley going nuts in the lanes. No one was bowling at the time. No one cared about they paid for bowling. They were just watching. It was a hug fest. I was hugging strangers actually. Now that I think about it, and then we of course know what happens with this decision. Maybe some consider this a big factor, some don't. Not to squib it, but have a regular kickoff. And then we know 13 seconds left on the clock. The pass to Kelsey to get them within field goal range. Bucker nails it, and the rest is history.
Yep.
Uh,
I'm gonna just read the last 2 minutes of that game in the uh, Scoring summary. Minute 54 left. Gabe Davis, 27-yard touchdown pass from Josh Allen. Josh Allen also passed Stephon Diggs for a 2-point conversion there. Minute 2 seconds left. Tyreek Hill, 64-yard touchdown pass from Patrick Mahomes. 13 seconds left. Gabe Davis, 19-yard pass from Josh Allen. Harrison Butker, as time expired, 49-yard field goal. Man, it just hurts, doesn't it? I mean, that the conversation I think we'll probably might talk about later in later episodes, but you probably saw it. WGR put out something about what's worse, the drought or 13 seconds. I think the drought as a whole was worse, but forever and ever, I will never feel as much pain as I did that game. And I feel like a lot of people said this, but I genuinely like I can bring on two people that will vouch for me here. I was watching the game with my roommate Tyler, who's also a big Bills fan. Shout out Tyler, and my girlfriend, who is also a Bills fan now that we're dating. But we were in our living room in college. They score. I jump up. I'm going crazy. And then I stopped and I looked around. I dropped to the ground and I stopped, got up, and I said, "There's 13 seconds. I'm not celebrating till the game's fully over." Now, did I expect it to happen? No, but it happened. And now we're here talking about it, what, 2 years later? 3 years later? 2.5 years later ish? Yeah, 2.5 years later ish. And it doesn't hurt any less. And I don't know if you agree with me, but it doesn't hurt any less.
I mean, the argument of, well, it's all down to the coin toss. We don't know if maybe the Bills turn it over if they win it, but by what was going on, I'm fairly confident that 42-36 would have been with the blue score ticker there for 42, yeah, just based on how those offenses were firing.
Oh yeah, here's the game leaders. I mean, passing, Josh Allen went 27 for 37 with 329 yards, 4 touchdowns, not a single turnover. Mahomes, 33 for 44, 378, 3 touchdowns. So both quarterbacks played great. Rushing, Josh Allen led the Bills, 11 rushes for 68 yards. Mahomes, 7 rushes for 69 yards and a touchdown. So they each had 4 touchdowns, each had about 70 yards rushing, and each had over 300 yards passing. Mahomes obviously more, but unbelievable games by both them. And then receiving, Tyreek Hill, 11 for 151 and a touchdown. And then Gabe Davis. Would this have been arguably the greatest playoff performance of a receiver ever? 8 receptions, 201 yards, and 4 touchdowns. That might be up there, but yeah, it hurts. It hurts. We can move on from it now. But I did have it on my list. I almost picked it. Almost did.
Okay.
So we're close. Here's my last one. I'm going to go all the way back to 2014. The Bills were 7-5. They were going to Mile High. Played Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. Lost in a heartbreaker that game, but they forced 2 interceptions from Peyton Manning. No touchdowns, I believe, from Peyton Manning that game. The next week, we're in Buffalo, playing the 10-3 Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers' streak ends of, I believe it was throwing a touchdown pass in consecutive games. But Kari Rambo, the legend, had 2 interceptions off of him. Marcus Thigpen had a punt return for a touchdown. Dan Carpenter led it the rest of the way because he actually ended up just kicking field goals the rest of the way. And Eddie Lacy, good throwback name there, gets tackled in the end zone to end the game essentially for a safety. But Kyle Orton led in that game. Fred Jackson, great game. And the leading receiver, I bet you $100 you can never guess who the receiving leader is. I'm just going to tell you because I guarantee you would know it. Bryce Brown for the Buffalo Bills had 1 reception for 40 yards. That was the leading receiver. So it was a weird game, but I remember that was that was when I just started going to a lot of games. A lot of games before then I had to watch on TV. I didn't go to every game until recently. I remember I went to this game. It was a cold one. It was, I believe it was in December. Yeah, December 14th. It was a cold one. It was freezing. That quite possibly might have been one of the loudest games I've ever been to. Up until that point, that was the loudest game I've ever been to. Probably up until 3 years ago, it was the loudest game I've ever been to by far. It was an unbelievable game. Again, not high scoring. Rodgers didn't throw a touchdown. There was actually only 2 touchdowns in the game, and it was Marcus Thigpen punt return and an Eddie Lacy 1 yard run. That was the only 2 touchdowns in the game. So that's going to be my last one. It was 2014. That is again not the right size font that I want. 2014 Packers or Rodgers streaks end. Rodgers streak ends. I don't know. I can't type right now, but
What
yeah. So there's our lists.
I was going to say,
Uh,
what's really interesting, not to cut you off, but about that game is it still aggravates me to think about what goes on in the following week. The lowly Oakland Raiders, and they find a way to screw it up and become eliminated.
that was the 2014. It was the year that a lot of people thought the streak was ending there. They
Mm-hmm.
thought the drought was done. And this is gonna sound crazy. Tell me if this is crazy because I think it is. I remember in 2014 thinking I kind of didn't want the drought to end, or because of Kyle Orton and this team that wasn't to me winning the Super Bowl.
To me, I
And,
was just kind of like, get this thing over with. I'm sick of heartbreak. I didn't really care who was under center, but I just couldn't believe that I think that at the time the Raiders were like 2-12,
and
something
I
of that
and I
nature, and
think
found a way to screw it up.
and then I think the next week did they not, or this I might be snaking years. Did they play the Steelers in last week, or
I
this might have been a
By
previous
that
one.
time it was always a divisional to end. And
So it
I
might have
believe
been.
they won that because they finished 9-7, but they just lost the tiebreakers, or maybe the wild card team was 10-6 at the time.
I don't know. We'll have to
But
look that up
yeah,
for later episodes, but yeah, that I remember that game was one of the loud. It was just unbelievably loud
mhm.
because everybody was trying to get in Rodgers' head. I mean, and it worked. I mean, he had a horrible game, and it was just back-to-back weeks of legendary quarterbacks not doing a thing against him, not doing a thing against that secondary because that secondary was, if I'm not mistaken, it was pretty nice. I remember that
Yeah,
year thinking that defense was pretty nice. Um, was that Chan Gailey led Bills? I believe.
or was it Rex at the time? Not yet. I
I think it
definitely
might have been
wasn't.
Chan. I think that might have been Chan's last year
Mhm.
because I think that Raiders game kind of ended him.
Yeah, put the kibosh on that. I'll go quickly here for my best that I've been at because I actually was not at any of what I listed for me at least. And then an honorable mention. So the best that I've been at has to go back to the 1 year I did have season tickets, like not buying individually every game, but before the year it was we wore the throwback jerseys week 2 versus the Carolina Panthers. This is probably a real deep cut, and it's the quarterback that another guy. Oh, is he the future? Is he the future? And I thought so at the time. EJ Manuel finds Stevie Johnson in the corner of the end zone to save the day. Bills win 24-23. Still best game I've been at. Crowd was going nuts. I was in the, funny enough, at the tender age of, at the time, 12, I was in the non-alcohol section, the family section. So, but we did not need any booze coursing through our veins to go nuts for that one. So that was definitely the best game I've been at. Would love to see that topped. Maybe it will be, but still always remember that. And then my honorable mention, another Vikings game still, while it was close to making the list, not last year. I'm going to go back to 2018, week 3 at Minnesota. The Bills come in, I believe, as like 16 or 17-point underdogs. But that is not anywhere near the storyline of the game. The Bills win 27-6, and I think there's one play that just about everybody should know what went on there. The first of what became many. Get out the hurdles because Josh is jumping over Anthony Barr. I'll never forget that. I was in shock that he did that. And that's just one of those games you won't forget. And yeah, the season ended up, I think, 6-10, but something struck there. And I think something really, some sparks flew there. And I think that we knew that, we might be in okay hands. And we know what's gone on since then. So that would round out my list.
Solid. I mean, those are both great games. I'm not gonna have like. I'm just gonna mention 4 games that I have up here, just that I've had on my list. Um, Bills Ravens playoff game. That was one that we talked about briefly. That was a phenomenal game. I mean, the Teron Johnson pick six is one of the greatest moments I've ever seen, and it was great. I remember being in my buddy's garage, jumping up and down with everybody going crazy. That was one. 2021, the actual 2021 season. 35-0 against the Dolphins in week 2. That was another great game. Bills breaking the drought. I'm surprised that's actually one neither of us had on the list, was the game that they actually broke the drought. And now that I think about it, maybe I would switch it with one of them, but whatever. That was just, I mean, I think that's the moment all of us will remember that was watching at the time. And then the other one that I had was actually Bills Rams opener. That was just, I thought it was just a fun game. I mean, I remember everybody was like, yeah, we are going to the Super Bowl. We are after that game. Obviously, didn't turn out too well, but yeah, those are some other ones. Obviously, there's a bunch of other games. We'd love to hear about you guys down below. I know that was a huge segment there. We're at an hour, which is double the time we usually go. It's a long one today. Hope you guys liked it. If you guys actually liked this long episode, let us know down below. Let us know. DM us, say I loved it, whatever. And yeah, let us know your games down below. We loved it. I want to know the ones that we're missing because there's definitely a billion games that we're missing that were just unbelievable games. Chiefs game last year was another one, great one in the regular season. There's just a lot of them. But here's our list one last time. Let us know actually also who you think won the best list. I know obviously we weren't really going for who has the best one. We were just picking our favorite games, but I think these are solid lists. I mean, a
Definitely.
lot of mine are, I mean, the first two of mine are blowouts, so that might help my case. But I mean, they're all great games. I mean, 13 seconds, even though we lost it, amazing game. I mean, that Kyle Orton hitting Watkins game, I remember that one. Then the Fitz, I remember that Fitz one too. That one was unbelievable when they won it at the last second. 20, I think it was 20. I think you said that right. 21-point comeback.
Yeah, it was. I believe it was 21-0. At the start for the Patriots there. Yep.
Yeah. So let us know down below. That is going to do it for us. Hunter, do you have any last words before we hop off?
Nothing more than let us know what you think. I'll be interested to see how many games are picked that weren't on our list that we may have thought to include, but just kind of fell in favor of some more. I know I keep talking about it. Last year's Vikings game, that would be probably the next choice that just missed for me, even though it was a loss. So yeah, love to hear it, and yeah, well, great episode, and yeah, I know we were definitely over time here, but I think it was certainly worth it. And also, here's an idea too. Let us know if you would have any more Mount Rushmore topics
Yeah.
that you would be interested in hearing.
Yeah, 100%. I know we love doing them. I love doing them. Oh, my mic's falling over here. Yeah, I love doing them. You love doing them. Next time maybe we'll even just make videos of us doing a Mount Rushmore. Maybe we don't even do it with, maybe we'll just drop a random episode here and there with just doing Mount Rushmore. So let us know down below. Appreciate all you guys. Remember to like, comment, subscribe. It really helps Built in Buffalo. Be sure to check out the other shows too that Built in Buffalo's got going on. I know you got Lance and Peter's show. You got Matt's show over there with Matt's got jokes, but it's great shows they got going on. Be sure to tune into them. Love all those guys over there. They're great creators, great football minds. And yeah, so let us know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. Really helps out the channel. Really helps the channel grow and more people to come in and comment and interact. We love having this Built in Buffalo community. You guys are awesome. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. We'll be posting other stuff. We'll be posting clips from this episode. We haven't been posting clips yet, but we will definitely do some for this one because there was a lot to talk about. So yeah, that's going to do it for us. Appreciate you guys listening. As always, go Bills, go Sabres, Bandits, Bisons, you name it. Go Buffalo. Hunter, anything before we hop off? I know you kind of just said the little last thing, but
Nah, that'll
anything?
do it. Let's enjoy the off season to the best of our abilities, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, see you guys next time.